Good morning. It is January 24th, 2019, and boy, oh boy, did things bubble up yesterday. But before we get into the main issue of our own national politics, I want to bring you this story about Prince William and his position on mental health struggles. This stems from a headline from another report where Prince William lamented he was at Davos speaking on mental health issues, and he lamented that he couldn't find, or that he could find very few celebrities who were willing to step up and be public supporters for mental health issues. So the headline reads, Prince William opens up about mental health struggles. I find it very difficult to talk about. And this was reported by Sarah Young via The Independent and shows up on Yahoo News feed. January 24th, 2019. Prince William has opened up about his personal mental health struggles, recalling one traumatic incident he didn't think he would ever get over. The 36-year-old royal took part in a panel discussion about mental health on Wednesday at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. During the talk, William spoke candidly to the audience of business leaders about his own experiences with mental health in a bid to highlight the important role employers play in promoting healthy workplaces. Recalling one particular incident where he worked as an ambulance pilot, William said, if he didn't have supportive colleagues to turn to about the situation, he would likely have gone down, quote, a slippery slope, close quote, mentally. Quote, I still find it very difficult to talk about, the father of three said. I get very emotional about it because it relates very closely to my children, and so it is very hard to talk about it. I know that if I hadn't taken the action that I did then, I would have definitely gone down a slippery slope and I would have been dealing with mental illness on a different level, close quote. Despite his struggles, the royal insisted that such feelings were only human, adding, yes, you put a suit of armor on, but one day something comes along closely related to your own personal life, and it really takes you over the line. William also called on the public to get over the stigma of mental health, something he says started with the wartime generation, and he's nailed it here. For some reason, people, this is quoting the prince, for some reason people are embarrassed about their emotions, British people in particular, he said. He explained that the British stiff upper lip, which was common after the First and Second World Wars, was passed on to children. So it became difficult for people to talk about such horrendous circumstances. The whole generation inherited this way of coping. This was the way you deal with your problems. You don't talk about it. However, William added that people are now becoming more aware of the importance of discussing mental health. Quote, I think there's a generation finally realizing that this is not normal. We should talk about it. We should get over the stigma, he said. We've got to start tackling it now so that our children and grandchildren don't live through this process and they can be more open about it. This isn't the first time the royal has opened up about his mental health. In 2017, William discussed the impact that child accidents had on him in his role as an ambulance pilot, admitting they left him feeling very sad and very down. He also revealed he needed counseling after struggling to come to terms with the death of his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. I commend the prince for his candor and his courage. This is the mental health topic is not an easy thing to discuss, as he has pointed out, and he has given a valid reason why. I would suggest that Prince William, because he was giving brief comments, the reason he neglected to mention the history of inhuman and cruel treatment at the hands of the people who were trying to warehouse the mentally ill and the criminally insane in the 19th century, is because Britain has a particularly bad track record with that issue. But they're not alone. You can find forced incarceration and forced containment in many cultures over time. Now let's move on to the mess in our own country. In our next story, and we're going to go in chronological kind of order for the events that transpired yesterday and late last night. From Breitbart, Kevin McCarthy offers a resolution for Trump to deliver State of the Union. And this was published yesterday by Sean Moran for Breitbart. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican of California, offered a resolution on Wednesday which would allow President Donald Trump to speak before Congress and deliver his State of the Union address next week. Kevin McCarthy tweeted, "Retweet if you agree that the State of the Union should proceed as planned. I just signed and submitted a resolution that would permit President Trump to deliver his State of the Union address on Capitol Hill on January 29th. And this is the Republican leader of the Senate. Here's the resolution. Now more than ever, Americans should see their government leaders in the same room working to make the future brighter." And then, here's the resolution, a screenshot, and the current, terms and conditions. And from Breitbart again, 12 arrested at Mitch McConnell's office during shutdown protest. And we saw this protest yesterday, and this is by Michelle Moons, and it was published yesterday for Breitbart. 12 shutdown protesters were arrested outside of the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office Wednesday afternoon. Protesters flooded the hall outside McConnell's office, chanting, "End the shutdown, do what is right, and where is Mitch?" On Capitol Hill, one Capitol Hill police officer told Breitbart News he believed they were with unions and said there were 12 arrested. Let's move on. From the conservative Tribune, angry Democrats take attacks on Pelosi to a new level. Get in the damn room with Trump and give him the money. Everybody's showing signs of fatigue. Newly elected Michigan Democrat Representative Sluckett wanted, I'm sorry, it went by too fast. She was one of the vocal Democratic representatives who said, go negotiate. Democrat Majority Leader Steny Hoyer told Fox News on Tuesday that he was in favor of Trump delivering the State of the Union in front of both houses, and his comments were more level-headed than many Democrats on both sides. Give Trump the money, Minnesota representative said. I'd give him the whole thing and put strings on it so you make sure he puts the wall where it needs to be. Why are we fighting over this? And this is from Peterson. Clearly, Pelosi is being unreasonable, and even the Democrats are catching on, and that was from Peterson. And finally, this was the culmination of the whole thing late last night, and this was from Fox News First. Trump delays State of the Union address until after shutdown. Republican calls Pelosi a nightmare. Can't say I disagree with that. Developing now, Thursday, January 24th, 2019. Trump delays the State of the Union. President Trump announced on Twitter late Wednesday that he will not give a State of the Union address until after the partial government shutdown is over. The president's announcement was the culmination of a tense day of political chess between Trump and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The San Francisco Democrat told Trump that the House would not approve a resolution allowing him to address Congress in the House chamber until after the government reopens. White House officials explored other possible venues for Trump to give the State of the Union address. Ultimately, the president decided to delay the address. I'm not looking for an alternative venue for the State of the Union address because there is no venue that can compete with the history, tradition, and importance of the House chamber, the president tweeted. I am looking forward to giving a great State of the Union address in the near future. Pelosi responded to Trump's announcement with a tweet of her own. Would you expect anything less at this point? She said she hopes that in the near future means that he is willing to support the House passed package to end the shutdown that is affecting about 800,000 federal workers. Laura Ingraham ripped Trump's decision in a tweet. Senator Lindsey Graham said the State of the Union tussle is a new low for American politics. I wholeheartedly agree. David Bossie says Pelosi acts like the leader of a radical resistance movement. Is this the dead end for shutdown proposals amid the fallout from Pelosi-Trump squabble over the State of the Union address? Senate on Thursday is expected to vote on competing bills to end partial shutdown. However, both are likely to fail because lawmakers are sharply divided on Trump's proposed border wall, meaning neither bill will likely attract the 60 votes needed to pass. And I'll just remind you that it doesn't matter what the House does with regard to Trump's proposals, their counter proposals, all that stuff. If it doesn't pass with 60 votes in the Senate, it will never make it to the president's desk. That's just the way things are. The GOP bill is modeled after Trump's proposal from last weekend, in which he offered Democrats 3-year extension of protections for 700,000 DACA, which are deferred action for childhood arrivals, In exchange for the $5.7 billion he has been seeking for a barrier along the wall along the U.S.-Mexican border. Democrats reject funding the wall outright. Their bill would reopen government through February 8th with no wall money given, giving time for with no wall money, giving bargainers time to further negotiate. Fox News poll, voters see shutdown as a bigger problem than the border situation. Well, that's one poll. Others see the border as the preeminent problem because if the Democrats prevail, if Nancy Pelosi keeps her party together, despite those who are breaking ranks with her, we will never see a border wall. Just, throwing that out there. And then the Fox News First goes on to talk about other things. And I'd like to end it with an article I found on Mumbleit. Props to you, Mumbleit users and participants. You keep bringing me really good things to include in the broadcast. Texas rancher offers land for border wall, tells Pelosi, quote, "Ma'am, I don't know where you get your facts." And this is by Craig Bannister for cnsnews.com, and it was posted yesterday at 2 in the afternoon. Ruperto Escobar, a 75-year-old seventh-generation Texas farmer, is offering to donate property for the federal government where it can build a border wall because he has suffered a lifetime of harm due to illegal immigration. The problem there right now is primarily drug trafficking. The illegal immigrants traveling through there are not so prominent anymore like they used to be, Escobar told Fox News in an interview on Wednesday. In his 75 years of living on the border, he has seen everything, Escobar said. Currently, Escobar explained, illegal aliens in vehicles packed with drugs are routinely driving at high velocity across his property, often with police in hot pursuit. Let's listen to Mr. Escobar speak for himself, and this is presented under Title 17, Section 107, the Fair Use Clause that covers use of others' intellectual property for the purpose of education, news, information, and discussion.
The problem there right now is primarily drug trafficking. The illegal immigrants traveling through there are not so prominent anymore like they used to be. But I've lived there 75 years, Steve, and let me tell you, I've seen everything happen there. Right now, I must access the river because I have a pumping site, and I have a good workable road to the river, right. And you ought to see the amount of traffic that happens primarily going back towards the river. People that get caught with their vehicles full of drugs and then they speed back towards the river at a very high velocity past my house, a whole slew of police after them, and then these individuals park those loaded Suburbans and things like that right by the bank of the Rio Grande and jump in the water and off they go, and they leave everything there.
And I know
that happens quite often.
Right, and I know that you had a couple of your, the people who work there on your farm, they were essentially told by the bad guys at gunpoint one night, this land is ours, and you're not going anywhere, and you didn't report it because you didn't want your men to get killed. But nonetheless, we've got a big map here in the studio that shows in the Rio Grande Valley sector, last year, 162,000 border apprehensions. So it proves your point that there's a lot going on your particular land. I know you say you would donate your land to the federal government for it, but I got to ask you, Nancy Pelosi, real quickly, Mr. Escobar, says that a wall would be immoral. You live where the wall would go. What do you say to her?
I say, ma'am, I don't know where you get your facts, but from what we have endured my lifetime, which is about 75 years now, of seeing the number of illegals coming across here, trampling over our fences, the drug dealers tearing down our gates, that is immoral.
I could not agree more with this rancher. It's time for us to think about the people who are actually affected, and the ranchers and the residents along the 2,000-mile southern border should be the ones who are looked at as experts on what their current situation is, not somebody who's sitting in Washington counting beans necessarily. And you can believe that this fight will bubble up again when we look at the problems on the northern border. And so with that, we would like to thank you for joining us today. And you can see that I was able to grab a little clip that shows you what our winter events look like in the last 72 hours. For me and the Shepherd, we hope you have a fantastic day. We hope you are well and blessed. And until we see you again, thank you for joining us.